Hey everyone, welcome back to this limited series podcast called Queer AuDHD BIPOC. I'm your host, TQ. I'm a queer, trans, disabled Chinese Singaporean AuDHDer and a student of this community. This book and podcast is to help other queer, Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, South Asian, Middle Eastern, and people of color who are both autistic and ADHD feel seen, less alone, and supported while living in multiple margins because we exist, even if you don't realize that we do. So today I am joined by Nadeen, who goes by Nabeen Ezzy on TikTok and Instagram. Welcome to the show, Nadeen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself and your identities and your general awesomeness?
Yes. So I'm Nadeen. I am pronouns are she, her. I am an AuDHD queer Mexican-Lebanese woman and just navigating this world as just like a different person. And yeah.
Could you share your journey of discovering that you're AuDHD? Because it can be very confusing to be both autistic and ADHD at the same
Yep.
time.
So I feel like I've always felt like an out of placeness like my whole life. People in school would always say, you're weird. And I was always confused why back then. I didn't realize I was doing anything weird. I just navigated that with school relationships. My family coined me as like over dramatic, too sensitive, crazy, emotional. I remember a specific time with my stepmom, I was like getting in trouble. I was 14 years old or something. And she thought I was ignoring her. But in reality, like I wanted to say something, but I just couldn't. And I did that a lot. I remember when I got home from school one day and I told my mom, like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I didn't really have a reason, but I just felt like I didn't belong, especially in school. And like high school can be so brutal. Those were the times where I felt like definitely an out of placeness and always I never fit in or anything. So reaching my adulthood, I feel like it got worse, especially when I really started working with other adults. At first, coming out of like undergrad, I started my own business selling handmade art and it took off and I was doing that for a few years. So I never really worked in a professional setting because I didn't have to. But after a few years, finances started getting like pretty bad. So I was struggling a little bit. I needed to find work. And a former friend of mine actually invited me to start working events with her and traveling. So I'm in this new space. I'm traveling for the first time out of state by myself with like different people. And I've started to realize like I started to become the girl that asked too many questions or I seemed anxious or unsure all the time. And I was like also people pleasing a lot and being very nice to the point where I couldn't recognize that people started taking advantage of my niceness, like manipulating this perception of who I was. But obviously, like now I know I was just trying to mask to fit in. But like my unmasked self, really smart, really good at recognizing patterns. I was asking questions to make sure I get everything right. And like they couldn't see anything beyond the social aspect of who I was or who I was presenting to be. And I was just like, maybe I'm seeing things wrong and constantly debating with that. And after that, when I noticed that behavior a lot from me, and how I felt lost all the time. I just started to feel like an energy shift from people who I thought were friends all of a sudden hate me for some reason. And at that point, I was just at a very low point, and I started to question who I was and why I felt like no one liked me, even though I was trying so hard to be liked. And at that point, I stopped working with the events people. I think it was like an 8 months of just like brutality. And I started getting served content randomly from autistic creators, I think mainly on TikTok, that I was like, that's literally me. Like this idea of like, wow, they look just like me. Like they look normal, which is having to unlearn also that ableist language and the perception that autism can only look one way. But especially with being a woman, we just go unnoticed and fly under the radar because people don't see us. The research is done on autistic little white boys with women, and we mask so well that we just fly under the radar and molding our personalities to fit in or be liked. So I think at that point, I know it's a very long drawn answer, but I think at that point is when I realized, okay, it's taken me a few years to really like digest and really reflect how I also used to be as a child. And it really clicked for me after that and like realizing, you know what, I think this is who I am. And I feel so much better knowing this is who I am because it really answers all the questions that I kept asking my whole life.
Thank you, especially for bringing up like the aspect of a lot of masking looks like fulfilling the role that patriarchy created
Yes.
for us. What about the ADHD part of your journey? Is it like, did it run parallel, or was it something you realized sooner or later?
I don't know. I feel like it happened around the same time. With ADHD, I feel like I was always so scattered in school. And I think knowing also that my dad is ADHD and he said it before, that I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. And just a constant battle between the two really just solidified things for me. I think that one was less of a surprise for me. So it made sense altogether. Yeah.
Could you also talk
Mhm.
about how your multiple identities overlap with being autistic and ADHD, like race, queerness, and any other aspects of your experience? Because you mentioned always feeling like you're too different.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel being autistic has made me, for example, with queer relationships, I feel like it affects it in a lot of ways because there are so many intersections that I fit into. So with queer relationships, like I feel like we don't connect on a social level because there's always like a disconnect between being neurodivergent and then being neurotypical. And the same if they're white and they don't understand the experiences of being like a person of color, like navigating this world. And especially with like Mexican family or my Lebanese family, definitely a disconnect all the time because I don't know if you're like me, I feel like a lot of autistic people also are like this. I don't like surface level relationships, like especially after learning who I am and finally being who I am unmasked. If it feels fake, I'm not going to do it. So I think a lot of people are surface level nowadays, and it's really difficult, especially if it's with family or like closer friends, because I just still feel like they don't get it. And in one aspect, whether if it's my neurodivergence or, being queer, especially, it's difficult to form those relationships in all different kind of intersections. Yeah.
You also mentioned you're both Mexican and Lebanese. How our traits, our autistic traits show up in our and how we present them to our families can be received very differently. So I wonder if you would like to speak to that.
I wonder. I don't know if it's specific, at least for with my Lebanese identity. My dad is Muslim. He grew up Muslim. He grew up Muslim. We grew up in that household. He also immigrated from Lebanon. So a lot of what he went through was very like PTSD. And Arabs are also just very kind and like amazing. So I just feel like a lot of my stuff got swept under the rug, or if I was being too emotional or too like sensitive, he'd be like, why are you doing that? I dealt with stuff worse than you did and stuff like that. With my Mexican side, my mom's Mexican, and a lot of the time she would say, oh, I did that. Like I did stuff like that. But in my head, I'm thinking like, that's not normal, quote unquote normal. So it's just, I don't know if it's like a Mexican Lebanese thing, or maybe I have to dig deeper on that. But at least with my parents specifically, it's always just been like, oh, that's normal. Like, at least with my mom. And especially, I don't really tell them. My mom knows a little bit, but my dad doesn't. But
Mhm.
if I did, I feel like it wouldn't even, they'd be like, what are you doing? Really? It doesn't work like that, especially in cultures that are different than just white. But yeah, I get the whole white creators online. It does feel sad for me because I'm like, oh wow, like your family's so accepting, like they know and blah blah blah. But like our families and stuff, I don't think they would react the same way.
Yeah, and it's also because of like survival, right? Like you mentioned your
Yes,
dad. So going through like being an immigrant, living in
right.
diaspora, and access to education around neurodivergence, access to all
Hmm.
of these resources to help families with like neurodivergent kids. It's
Right.
not equal across families and it's determined by all these barriers created by race,
Yeah.
gender, and immigration status.
Yeah. That's true. And now that you mention it too, a lot of my dad would think that too. And especially because he fled like a war situation with Lebanon. Anything that like comes out of me is, come on, like you're here and I gave you this life, which understandable. I've never gone through what you've gone through. So then, yeah, anything other than that is just, you can calm down. Like it's not that serious, even though it feels serious on my end. But yeah.
For the next part, I was thinking, could you talk about what navigating being AuDHD is like for you in your daily life, whether it's like in relationships or community or your work, just like a
Yes.
peek into the life of being AuDHD.
With work and my career, after I figured myself out, I realized I do not like working for other people. I don't respond well to a hierarchy or those like unspoken corporate mannerisms that are just like fake bullshit. Like, I
Mm.
appreciate my flexibility and my time. So those are things that I really value. I don't like waking up super early because I can sometimes like, especially, and that I think my ADHD, because I can work for hours and sometimes my brain like works so well at night and I'm staying up till 1 in the morning doing my work because that's just when it works for me. So I like being able to have that. So after the whole events thing, I think around end of 2022, I started picking up like e-commerce, online stuff, especially since I owned my art business back then. I operated on an e-commerce shop. So I picked that up, helped clients here and there with freelance, and then I actually started picking up like content creation for brands and businesses and not necessarily like influencer stuff. It's more like creating the content as marketing assets for these brands. And then now creative strategist. So now I work with multiple clients, freelance. I work from home. I can work with my wife here, still kick ass, get my job done, make my money, all within like accommodating my own needs. Yeah. And at least with relationships, I'm literally reading the question on the doc too. So just
It's okay.
I just want to make sure I'm following. Sometimes my brain goes a little bit like boom,
I
it
also have the
stops.
doc open for me.
That's what we need. But yeah, and if, as far as relationships, let me see, I'm trying to think.
I spoke a bit about it, like especially with interracial or dating like neurotypical.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been with my wife. We've been together for nearly, I think it's going to be 10 years next July. So she's seen me in all my stages of growth. When I thought it was neurotypical or whatever it is, and discovering that, like she's been through it all with me. So I'm very grateful and I'm lucky that I've had that because she's also like a big reason why I feel happy. And she accommodates me in so many ways in my daily life to this day that I feel like if I didn't have that, I honestly, I don't even like to think about it because I don't know how I would do it. I know there are people out there that are just kicking ass alone and trying their best, and I commend them for that. But I definitely am very grateful for her and helping me navigate this daily life and being able to accommodate me and while I like work and help us together and grow together. So that's how it's been on that aspect, on the relationship with my wife aspect. I'm also don't want to make it like glam. There's also obviously like very difficult things still to this day. Like, at times I have meltdowns, especially if I'm working a lot. There's not really a set schedule, so I tend to burn out a lot, especially with like autistic burnout. But yeah, so it's not pretty all the time. But again, at least I still have a person here that'll help me through that. And as far as like my family, they're not with me 24/7 like she is. They're in different states, so they don't really see that. So I think navigating that is a little bit difficult because sometimes I wish, especially with my mom, since she knows, I prepped her and telling her that I'm AuDHD, but I feel like she doesn't understand fully. And sometimes I wish that they could see that part. Maybe they'll understand. So not very good in that like family aspect. I just wish that they saw all of me instead of seeing like only a version of me that I let them in on. But yeah, yeah,
I think for me, it's not like they haven't seen. It's just that they
yes,
don't think that there's anything unusual
different.
about
Yes,
it. But you've
exactly.
always been like that since you were a kid. And yeah, and I was struggling.
Exactly. Like that should just be the tell all. I've always been like this. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious because I also work from home and you mentioned a
Yeah.
bit of it. What accommodations, besides being able to work from home and to be able to work for yourself, like what
hmm
accommodations are you able to set up for yourself to accommodate your ADHD?
Trying to think. I think first of all, allowing myself to sleep in a little bit. I know that's so small and it's definitely depends on every person. I know some people like to wake up really early in the morning and structure themselves, but I don't really have a routine and I think that's what helps me a lot. Maybe that's my ADHD speaking a little bit. I'll eat breakfast, and I'll actually have my laptop with me, catch up on everything. And what else? Like, I make sure I have my little toys with me to by my desk if I need to hold on to something. I also, since I'm freelance and I can make my own rules most of the time, I'll set up meetings that work for me and my time. Sometimes I'll be off camera because I don't want to be on camera for some meetings. And the beauty of it is some of those clients actually allow that I don't have to be on camera and show up all the time. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's like specific enough. And just allowing myself to also just be in my PJs and not get dressed. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to get ready and everything. And yeah. And also with the food aspect, I don't really feed myself. So that's where my wife comes in and helps me in that route. She'll remind me, hey, you're gonna eat a snack, here's your food, which is embarrassing sometimes because she does a lot of those like necessary things for me. But it is so I can focus. Otherwise, if I don't, it's not gonna get done. That's just how it
Yeah.
is most of the time.
I'm also curious because, like, again, because I also work from home, the part of freelancing is like you needing to go out and find clients, and that requires
Mhm.
like talking to people. So what's your experience of navigating that?
I've struggled a lot with that. I want to say, when did I think like around, okay, so I've always struggled with this and I've had issues like if I was in an interview with someone or something and I wasn't confident in myself or something like that. And I've had an issue also with, I'm sure you've also dealt with this too, where you're speaking and especially I feel like maybe because we're nervous, my brain just goes silent. Like I didn't know what I was saying. I don't know what the question was. So I feel like a lot of the times like I messed up a lot with clients, with potential clients because of those things. And I don't know what it was. Like it was just a switch. I think it was May of this year that I think I just started like taking notes. Like that's also another accommodation of mine. I take notes before a call. I'm bullet pointing every single thing of potential questions and like potential questions that they might ask, and sometimes even go the extra mile to ask them like, hey, before our meeting, can I get an idea of what you're going to be talking about? I won't ask them to send me questions because I know sometimes then there's going to be like an internal bias with them, and I don't want that to happen. But just let me know what the meeting will be about, and then they'll tell me, and then I'll be like, okay, perfect. I know what I'm gonna say. And then from there, I study it a little bit the night before and then go in just like confident. I feel like I split a little bit or dissociate a little bit to try to like, maybe it's masking, I don't know, but just try to like be different than who I am. That way, the like nerves and the like, it just doesn't take over. So I think that's what's helped me a lot. And then people end up like then I got so many clients starting in May and I'm like, damn, what did I do differently? It was just really just being a confident version of myself. But then
Mhm.
also like it'll end up just going hand in hand together. It'll merge. But yeah,
I think like we do what we need to do to survive, get
yes,
your
yes,
coin.
exactly.
Girl, I did the same thing when I used to be employed or when I was an employee and like doing job
Yeah.
interviews. Yeah, I like plan things out in detail and
y-
over show up.
Yep. Yep.
And then I went through like autistic burnout. I can't do that right
Yes.
now. It takes a
Oh my
lot.
God.
It takes a
Yep.
lot of energy.
Yes, it does.
But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned the toys that you hold while working, so would love to talk
Hmm.
about what brings you joy, not just like
Yeah.
AuDHD, but like
Right.
joy in general.
I think it's very small things. I don't care for much, but I think since I work from home, I like just stepping outside at 12 p.m., 1 p.m. and going to get a coffee or like a drinky drink with my wife and just being able to do that midday and then just have it like by my desk, sipping on something. That's something I really love doing. I collect a lot of figurines, plushies, again, like little sim toys. What else? I feel like a big special interest of mine also was getting tattoos back then, and that was before I realized that I was AuDHD. I ended up with like two armfuls, and I feel like I got tired of it. Otherwise, I would go and get more, but and then just being able to express myself in color, like never did that when I was younger, and I always wanted to do it. Like I always wanted to color my hair, and I never was allowed to, but I realized, damn, girl, you're an adult. You have free will. Do what you want to do. So I just went to go get my hair dyed one day and I just kept it this way. So I've had it for over 2.5 years now. I don't think I'm going to change it anytime soon, but I like being able to stand out and express myself in the way I want to express myself. And whether that's like dressing up in color too, sometimes I do that and it makes me happy, like knowing that I am able to do that now.
Do you want to share your nails with the screen? Because I
The
noticed
nail.
them. Ah,
Yes.
gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I just got them done yesterday too. So that's also another thing I like to do. Little like what would you call them? Like beauty services, I guess. Just checking in and doing those like self-care things for myself. Otherwise, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna be here and not do anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something that really annoys me that I see people, I know they're trolling, but then they go
Right.
on the accounts of AuDHDers and they're like, if you are artistic, how can you get tattoo?
Mm,
I'm like, what?
okay.
They think. everyone experiences like sensory overwhelm and
Got
overload
it. Yes.
the same way, and they don't understand like some of us are sensory seeking, some of us are
Yes.
sensory avoidance. So do you want to like
True.
your experiences like getting tattoos also?
Ooh, that's a great question. So obviously, I definitely have sensory issues, but not really with that. This, I think it started when I was like 18 or 19. It was when I was like, oh, in college, this is something new. So I went to go get it done one day, and I just loved it so much. And it's a little bit weird, but anytime I went through a period of my young adult years, like 18 to 21, 22. So anytime I was sad or something, or like really down, well, what am I gonna do? Go book a tattoo appointment because I just wanted to. And then it also has to do with the self-expression. Once I got like the first two or three, I realized, ooh, I want all plant arm. Like I'm gonna get a bunch of flowers and different plants. So it did become also about completing this plant vibe on myself because I loved the idea of decorating my body because I liked the way it looked, but also, yeah, seeking that sensory experience when I was sad or like feeling a little depressed, which was a lot of the time in those years. Yeah, I was never afraid of the needle. That was never my experience, but there are other like sensory experiences that I don't like, but that was never one of them. Yeah.
Oh, so do you want to talk about those other sensory experiences?
I feel like they're so small. I'm trying to think. There's certain clothes, at least now, I feel like now that I'm unmasked, there's not a lot of clothes that I like to wear. I used to wear a lot of leggings and tight pants, and I don't like wearing those things anymore, especially if I'm gonna go out. Leggings, though, workout leggings are different than like regular like jeggings. I used to wear a lot of those, but now when I go out, I'm always gonna wear like flowy pants, and a lot of the time I actually just rewear my pants. I'm calling myself out, but I'm re-wearing them all the time because I don't want to put the other 50 freaking stuff in my closet just because I don't feel comfortable in them. I feel like that's one of the things, but a lot of other things like stuff with my nails. I hate when stuff gets under my nails.
For me, the hardest part is that I process things very slowly. So when I try them
Yeah,
on in
yeah.
the store, I'm like, these
Mm,
they seem fine.
yep.
And then you wear them for an entire day and then you just want to set them on fire.
Exactly. That's why I don't like shopping in the stores anymore. I'm like, I'm gonna sit on this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then wear the same pair of pants. Like,
exactly.
and the worst part is like after you've bought them once and then you realize, oh, these are good ones. And then you can never find
Yeah,
them again.
unfortunately. Yep.
So the next thing I want to ask you is if you could go back in time and talk to Nadine before she realized that she was AuDHD. Oh, also like I don't know if you're comfortable talking about your journey of coming out as queer or realizing you're
Hmm.
queer and how that lines up with realizing your
Hmm.
AuDHD-ness. Like,
Yes. I wonder. I feel like it was a different time. Let's see. First, I always like to say this too. When I was like in second grade, I remember that I had this like really good friend. Her name was Stacy. And I remember going into a bathroom stall with her one day and we were like dancing. I don't know, it was like a partner dance. I don't know what she was doing. She was leading. And we were just in the stall. And I remember someone coming in, like a sixth grader or something. And we're second graders and we're just in the stall together dancing. And they come in, they're like, what are you guys doing in the bathroom together? Blah, blah, blah. And then she told our teacher. But then my teacher didn't tell our parents because then we were afraid, like, oh my God, we're gonna get in trouble. Like, why? It was like a big thing. I don't know why, but my teacher was just like, you're very naughty girls. And that's it. She just let it go though. She was just like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I've always, since I was younger, in elementary school, always in my head, I kept saying, I hope I'm not lesbian. What if I turn out to be a lesbian when I'm older? And what if I'm married? What if I get married to a woman? I always used to say this in my head, and no one else goes through that. Like any straight person, they don't say things like that. So there's always just been the thought in the back of my head because I was afraid if that were to happen. I'm Lebanese, I'm Mexican, like that's not gonna work out. My dad's Muslim. I was always just afraid of that. So lo and behold, yeah, I'm lesbian, I'm gay. So I grew up and I met my wife. Actually, we worked at Target together and we became best friends like this, but to the point where we're like inseparable. I don't want her to do anything with anyone else, like romantically. She doesn't want me to do anything romantically with anyone else. And then we realized, what is this? And then she confessed her love for me. I confessed my love for her. And then from then, we just we realized, okay, we actually do love each other. So we were lucky to be best friends for a long time. But I think like the next year or two, my parents eventually found out because there's only so much you can hide, especially that we're together all the time. So it was different. It was very separate, and it was a journey in its own because they had to come to terms with that. But it is a little bit difficult too because now it's like my family, at least with my mom, because she knows everything. She's queer, she's AuDHD now. What else? I always speak out about I'm just such an outspoken person in so many ways and express myself in so many ways that it's like too much sometimes. But yeah.
Just you think the story that you shared was so sweet.
Yeah.
So
Yay.
many ill-fated like best friendships that were confusing and
Is
semi-romantic, but then didn't quite work out. I mean, I'm with my
yeah.
partner now and I'm happy. I'm just wondering, like queer dating as ADHD. I never flirted. I always just went
Mm,
straight to the person and asked them out, which freaked people out because like
yeah.
I can't do the small talk. I can't. If you wink at me, I don't know what that means. Are you gonna sneeze?
I
Like,
love yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
But then I'm hearing
very
it's
straight up.
for you. It's like more a long-term thing with like your like best friend and like
Yeah.
girlfriend and wife.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely different because what we met when I was 19. So I think we started dating officially when I was 20. So I didn't really have to date, but I think back then I did always like flirt, but I don't know if it was flirting or if I was just being nice. But people always thought it was flirting. They're like, "Oh, you're such a flirt." I'd be like, "Am I? I don't know. I thought it was just being nice." And now I know, yeah, there are a lot of like people like that just think or people think that they're flirting, but they're not. They're just being like really nice, especially if people have partners and it gets a little bit mixed. But luckily I didn't have to do the whole like dating in my adult years that so I probably just don't know. Like, yeah.
That's very lucky. Oh my
Yes,
God.
yes.
Dating is such a fucking mess.
I didn't
Yeah.
even realize. Yeah, I can't imagine, especially knowing who I am now. I don't know how I would do it. Yeah.
But there was a sidetrack. I always have to
Yes,
ask
yes.
other
Oh,
queer, like
good.
AuDHD people about
Yes.
dating. Yeah. If you could go back in time and let like, still masked and like Nadine who didn't know that she's AuDHD, or for
Mhm.
everyone out there who's like questioning or just got diagnosed, just realized, and if they're also queer and BIPOC, like what would you want them to know so that they feel less alone?
I think that if you're telling and I know it might be harder for like younger people who still live with their parents and stuff, but I think I would say if you're telling family and friends about your experience, about who you think you might be, expecting like validation from them, or yeah, like any validation or any like kind words from them, then I think most of the time you're going to be disappointed most of the time. But if you go into it expecting that, try not to. Like just try to think that you're the only one who knows what you've experienced. You're the only one in your body, you're the only one in your brain. Sure, like these people, like if your family, they grew up with you and stuff, but they will truly never understand what it's like to be in your body. So just being okay with your word, yourself, and being who you are. You don't need anyone else's validation or understanding. If you know who you are, that's it. That's all you need. And then go, you'll be much happier that way. I think if you're just expecting all this validation and understanding from everyone, you're just going to feel a lot more alone. And that's the thing that sucks. It's hard to get out of that loneliness or sadness that no one else is understanding. So I think that's what I would say, especially to little Nadine, because she always expected validation and wanted that from her parents. So I think it's just like you do you, girl. No one's gonna get it. You have to be okay with that.
Damn,
Yeah.
that's super real.
Yeah.
What point in your journey did you have this like realization that okay, I don't really need all this validation that I've always been looking for?
I realized it way too late. I feel like I'm gonna say it was this year when I realized, okay, I'm never gonna get this. And that's okay. Like, as long as I hate to say it, but I do feel lucky that I at least have my partner with me that does get it. Otherwise, I don't know what I would do. But it's because of that, like expecting validation. So if I realized it a lot sooner, I think it would be a little bit better, but it's just, yeah, way later in my life. And I'm 28 now, so it's definitely difficult. And I think it's because I have a cultured background like Mexican and Lebanese. It's harder to get out of that want for validation from your family.
There was
Oh,
also a question that I wanted to ask.
yeah.
As a content creator, you do feature your face in your content.
Mhm.
Like I know some like autistic folks have trouble being perceived.
Yes.
How do you navigate showing up as a content creator and like being perceived, especially on the wild internets?
Yeah, that's a good question because I don't know why, but I feel like it's always been easy for me to show up on camera on a screen. I've always been that way for some reason. I always wanted to, and it's so weird too, growing up, I wanted to be like famous. I want to be a singer. I want to be an actress. So I did want to be this bold and like big, but in person, I think I struggle with being perceived way more than on screen.
Interesting.
Don't get me wrong, like sometime in the beginning when I started creating content and like my ads were starting to get shown to people and now my family's gonna know that, oh, dang, like she's on screens now. I did struggle with that a little bit. What are they gonna think? Like they're just gonna think I'm like a loser or something. Like obviously there's that overthinking piece all the time, but I think now I'm trying to get out of that and being like, I know I'm making my living. I feel content. So anything that they think, it doesn't matter. You're not in my shoes. Like I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm making my money. There's no problem with that. But as far as the content creation, I think I'm set there because it's taken a lot of unlearning about people's opinions. And there is that little voice in me sometimes, but I just try to like don't think about it. I do not like, and sometimes when people are like, you want to go for coffee or food? I'm like, "Ugh, I just don't want to be there. And then concerts, it's really difficult because I'm thinking like they're gonna watch me dance. Like people are probably watching how I'm dancing in my face like right now. I hate being in public because my brain just overdrive because of how I'm
Mm.
being perceived, even though they're probably not even paying attention to me.
What's the biggest thing you want the world to know? So it could be, I don't know, medical professionals, your family, your community, or the government. I know shit's really on
A
fire right
lot of
now
stuff.
in
Yes.
America.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
so that things can be better for like queer AuDHD, people of color.
There are things I want to say to the government for sure, because especially these last few days. But I don't know. I would say let autistic people vibe. Like it's not hurting you, it's not hurting anyone. And I know we've said this before about queer people, BIPOC people, like it's just let people express and label themselves how they want to. If it's not affecting your life, literally fuck off. Like who cares? You know what I mean? So just making lives difficult for other people when it's not your experience and they just want to talk about their experience and get people to a point of understanding so we can better learn how to accommodate everyone. Just, I don't know, listen. I think that's, and especially if we're going more small, like family and relationships, listen to the people that are speaking to you and telling you about how they feel and their experience and what because they've done the self-reflection, they know who they are. Just sit back and listen and don't try to dictate and insert your idea of what their experience is. Because in reality, is like you will never know. So
Yeah,
just, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. How can we support your work, uplift your work, and just generally support Nadeen?
Yes, there's not much. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. TikTok is a little, Instagram is a little more polished. Sometimes I barely post on there, but when I do, like, it's a little update about my life. I'm on LinkedIn a lot of the time. It's like far as professionalism goes or whatever. So if you're a professional and you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, hit me up. We can always connect. And I'm always just willing to like expand my network and meet new people in different worlds. Yeah.
Oh, can you remind the audience again, like your services? You mentioned like user-generated
Yes.
content and
Yeah, user generated content. So if you have a brand, you can let me know and I will create that for you. I'm also experienced in paid ads, paid media. So I'll do like the strategizing for those brands and stuff. But yeah, we want to go smaller content creation, I think.
thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us today, Nadine, and for
Yes.
sharing your story. For everyone who's listening, this was Queer AuDHD BIPOC. This is both an ebook and a podcast. And if you go to rewilding.cc/book to pre-order a copy right now, you'll be helping me pay all of the interviewees who have awesomely agreed to join this podcast. You'll be helping us publish our book with all of our stories in it. And then when all the project costs have been covered, we'll also be contributing to the Autistic People of Color Mutual Aid Fund and also to my disabled Palestinian friend, Nara. She has multiple sclerosis and epilepsy and cancer. So every donation from the book will be helping her to access medication and take care of her two children together with her husband. So there's lots of reasons to support this project, support queer AuDHD BIPOC, support Nara's family in surviving Palestine, support autistic people of color. And thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.